to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of February, 2026. And of course, we're into a brand new month. And we do hope that you're having a good February thus far. Of course, we're available on 101.1 FM radio. We're also on our Facebook feed, Lunchroom on. That's on the official page of Radio Caribbean International. We're also on YouTube. You can check us out there. Now, of course, in just a bit, we're going to be speaking for our dish of the day with Mr. Jonathan Johannes and his most recent publication. It's called the Exception Code. The Exception Code. And we're going to be speaking with him. Of course, he is a leadership coach across the Caribbean. And we'll be speaking about his brand new publication, which was, in fact, being featured up at the event up at the Mon as part of South Louis Community College's Nobel Laureate Festival, Writers in the Spotlight. But first, before we get into that, just a bit of history for today. Back in the year 1966, the first soft landing on the moon by the Soviet spacecraft Luna 9 occurred. And in fact, this coming weekend, on the 7th, it's not going to be a landing on the moon, but the first trip by us here, mankind, heading back to the moon, and that's going to be happening this coming weekend. We now head across to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Now, many might know him as a banker, as a person very well known here in St. Lucia, Mr. Jonathan Johannes, but he's also been doing a little bit of writing. And here to tell us about his latest publication, The Exception Code. Very interesting name. We've heard a lot of our different codes out there, the Da Vinci Code. This one is interesting, the Enigma Code, but this one is the Exception Code. And to tell us all about it, of course, the author, Mr. Jonathan Johannes. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good to be here, Calix. Really excited about today.
This is a really interesting name, the Exception Code. Exception. Let's talk about that. Exceptional, is it, or accepting? What is the idea there?
Well, it goes back to a conversation I was having with a colleague of mine, and everybody wants exceptional results, but they want to do things in a conventional way. So we came up with a tagline for a speech you was preparing for. In order to be exceptional, you must be prepared to be the exception. You must be different. You must try new things. And that's the only way you can produce exceptional results. And from that, I embarked on some daily writings, which I call the Exception Code. And when I decided to put together a book, we decided to make that the title, the Exception Code. It's about taking what's uniquely you and developing that into leadership principles so that you become the leader you were destined to be. So gone are the days when we have to take something out of a book and practice that. This one focuses on authenticity and bringing out your leadership qualities.
Very, very interesting thoughts indeed there. And I remember, you learn, say in chemistry, for example, and you have different areas in the table of elements, and they're all supposed to behave a certain way, and then there's always that exception to the rule, which makes things very, very interesting and sometimes very much more difficult and complex, though.
Well, gone are the days when we start looking at exceptions as being complex and difficult, and we now need to embrace them as the catalyst of change and the challenges of the status quo. And the bringers of new insight. So that's what I'm hoping the title invokes when people see it.
Who are you targeting this publication towards?
Ideally, I'm targeting business leaders, founders, C-level executives, persons aspiring into those positions. But a lot of people that have read it are middle management. I have a few students at university who are giving it some solid reviews and good feedback. So I guess it applies to anyone who has a desire to improve their leadership, whether it be in a corporate sense, whether it be in a non-profit organization, whether it be at a church. If you are interested in leadership, if those kind of books speak to you, if that's your genre, then it's applicable to you. But ideally, when I wrote it for myself 25 years ago.
The things that you were not told.
The things I wasn't told.
Okay.
All the pitfalls, all the mistakes that I made, I said to myself, you know what? For the 25th anniversary of my leadership journey, I'll put out a book that I wish I had 25 years ago. And I think if I had that book, again, playing on the word code, it would have been a cheat code for me and I'd be 10 times better than I am today. So I'm hoping that people who pick it up, actually, when I go back to them in a few years, I hope to see them 10 times better than they were when they first picked up the book. So that's the aim.
There's been so much taught about management, of course, and management has certainly become a lot more of a, I don't know how to say it exactly. I won't say more serious area of study, but it certainly has really mushroomed, perhaps over the past 4 or 5 decades. The rise of management programs like MBAs and now even DBAs,
Yes.
and a lot of focus coming out of it, and a lot of the early entrance into management came out of engineering. I think people like Peter Drucker and those, how do you process, how do you deal with these things, and so there was a certain level of technicality, I suppose, towards management. How do you see the field today, though, in terms of changes and why this book, for example, fits into that space?
I think the direction the field has taken is that we have become more knowledgeable of the fact that dealing with people cuts across all walks of life, and that is what delivers success in today's world. We have become so connected that you have to engage in some level of management and leadership to accomplish anything you want. So gone are the days when science was the foundation of learning. I think we have gone to a place where the social relationships and interactions and managing those dynamics are the basis of success for anyone in our society today. And management has evolved, leadership has evolved to embrace that position. And I think when you look at, again, as you said, the evolution of studies and the evolution of programs in terms of MBAs, DBAs, PhDs, organizational psychology, we are seeing that embracing of leadership and guidance and collaboration. This book fills that void that I believe exists in the region. And I speak about it a lot, sort of sound like a broken record. We import all our thought leadership. Gone are the days when we had Sir Derek Walcott and Sir Arthur Lewis exporting thought leadership to the world. And we spend millions attending conferences, going to workshops, buying books, buying programs, bringing in-house training. And when we get it, we have to customize it because it doesn't speak to our culture, the nuances of inter-island travel, inter-island management, cross-cultural differences. So I'm advocating for people much better than I am to look at what I have done and pick up the pen as well. Let's start documenting our leadership lived experiences. Let's start putting it in a tangible way that people can consume it, and let's share it across the Caribbean, something built for us by us.
And that's an interesting message, of course, because as you're saying, perhaps coming out of school and you're taught certain things, and then this book represents your learned experience of 25 years.
Yep, it does. And here's what's amazing, right? For me, and I hope when I tell this story, people are encouraged by it.
While you're
right?
speaking, may I?
Yes,
also
please,
just
please,
have a
please.
quick look.
Quick, have a glance. I put this book out in November of 2025, and I'm speaking about the high importation bill as it pertains to thought leadership, and how I hope that we can export our own thought leadership. Last week, I attended this Arthur Lewis Community College's Writers in the Spotlight, and the turnout was amazing, and we had some interesting dialogues. But a day after I attended, I got an email from Forbes magazine to indicate that the exception code was selected to be one of 25 books in their listing of the top 25 books on mergers and acquisitions that every business leader should read. And I'm still
I
processing
mean, that's
that.
a really remarkable
I mean,
acknowledgement
it's
and
like
accolade
making-
coming from Forbes.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like being on the Billboard list as an artist, right?
Yeah.
So I keep joking with my sister, I'm the new Rihanna. A Caribbean-born artist or writer making it to a Forbes list. So I'm really excited about it. But what I am still processing is the names on that list. I see names that I had to quote when I was writing university papers, like John Cotter. I see authors of books that were prescribed to me early in my career when I was part of dysfunctional teams. And the one that stands out is The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Pat Lencioni. So for me, as a first-time author, to find myself among these giants, it's remarkable. And I hope that people listening, leaders listening, will say to themselves, if he could do it, I could do it too. And my message to everyone listening today is, pick up the pen. You have a story to tell. It may not be in the form of a book, but I tell everybody that leads an organization or that leads a team, you are a writer. Just take a second to look back at how many emails you sent out last year, how many messages you sent to your teams last year, and you will understand that writing isn't as hard as we make it seem sometimes. So even if you're just going to practice one email a week, one social media post, sharing your knowledge, sharing what you learned, sharing your failure, let's get writing, because other people are looking. They may not comment, they may not like, they may not repost, but they are reading and they are learning and they are putting into practice some of what you were sharing. So let's get that thought leadership movement going in 2026 and consume more of our own thought
Jonathan,
leadership.
one of the things, of course, that challenges most people, and we want to know the secret as to how you are able to do so. How does a person who has a full-time responsibility managing a regional entity, Unicoma here for the OECS, find the time to be able to actually develop this remarkable publication? I mean, this is over 300 pages, and it's not a fictional story. This is real.
This is lived experience.
So how did you manage to find the time to do so? How long did it take?
Like I always say, it's 25 years in the making, but in terms of putting it together, I started in February of 2025 and we were out in November of 2025.
Wow.
But I did have a failed attempt in 2023, right?
Okay.
My sister reviewed it and said, this doesn't read too well.
Okay.
The content was good, but I had to go back to the drawing board. Where do I find the time to do it? Well, it's a big secret, but I will say it anyway. I'm perhaps the biggest introvert in St. Lucia, so I'm really shaking in my boots speaking on this mic and being
Nobody
on
would have thought
camera.
that, but okay.
But being an introvert keeps me home. And you won't see me out. As a matter of fact, people saw me at the fair and they were like, you do exist. And I'm like, yeah, I do. But I don't get out much. I stay at home pretty much every day, every night. And that's what I do. I write. And I think I become more social behind the keyboard on social media and when I'm in my books and when I'm in my writing. Thankfully, I have no kids to take to lessons or to karate or to football practice. So all my time is pretty much mine. So I just decided to throw everything I had of my free time into getting this out. And I promised myself that before December 7th, which is my birthday, that I would be giving myself this as a gift. So we were able to pull that
Fantastic. I
off.
mean, lots of people stay home, but they still don't actually end up producing that. So certainly a big kudos to you on this achievement. Unpacking this book, as I said, it's a very detailed read. And just by looking at the table of contents, one of the things that struck out to me is, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but the 8 biggest leadership myths.
Yeah,
That's an interesting title for a section of the book.
yeah. I mean, we have so many myths about leadership today, and some of them are designed to create an aura about it, sort of like an exclusivity about it. And I want people to really get a copy, take a look at those myths, or maybe I'll actually make a free chapter available and put that on my website or on my LinkedIn. But don't be intimidated by the book, and that's why on the cover we don't make it feel academic. We don't make it feel too overwhelming for people. I think everybody can read this book and enjoy it. The myths of leadership are in there. You will enjoy reading that. There are lots of stories about Caribbean leaders. Two that I particularly enjoy is one around West Hall. I don't know how many St. Lucians know about West.
Jamaican West
Hall, yeah. The owner of Harbor Club.
Okay. Yes.
Chancellor of the University of Toronto, and Dragon on Dragons Den Canada. I also have an endorsement from your cousin.
Notice that Nadia Theodore in the front.
She's listed in there, all right? So we have a lot of powerful Caribbean people lending their support to the book, and I encourage everyone to go out there, pick up a copy. It's available on Amazon. I have a few books here on island that I brought in. So find me on social media, drop me a DM, and we always arrange to get you a copy. But I think everyone will enjoy it once they have a copy in their hands.
And I mean, you did mention, of course, the importance of us as a region learning from ourselves. You hear that challenge quite often, where we don't have Walcott being taught in schools enough, and we don't have Southerners. You think this is something that could be useful reading for maybe somebody at Southwest Community College, somebody at Monroe College, and in their programs?
I believe it will broaden their horizons and add to their depth of thought. Ideally, I would like professional people to embrace it a bit more. But at the academic level, I think it serves a purpose. I think it fills a void. I think the management program, even at the A-level college, can benefit from it, because it brings practicality to the theoretical studies that people are doing today. You will see a lot of application of your theory in the book, in, again, lived experiences, and it brings that richness of the practice of leadership to bear on the reader.
Some may say that, I mean, regardless of how many books you read, though, you're still going to have to learn by application and learning really on the job, as you may have had the benefit of doing, though. What say you about this, though?
Yeah, I totally agree that the best teacher is experience. You go to university, you read books, and you get out in the field, and that's how you learn. Well, don't think of this as something to teach you. Think of it as a guide. So it's your field guide. It's my mistakes that you don't have to repeat. I'm still making mistakes today. Don't get me wrong. And a huge chunk of this book is not about me being a finished product. It's about aspirations. And I like to think of it as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John writing their gospels. Here they are, broken men, trying to be saved, telling me the path to salvation. And they are not there yet. So I'm not there as a leader as yet, but I'm trying to tell people how to get there. So we're taking this journey together. A lot of it is my mistakes, as I said, but a lot of it is what I aspire to be. And I hope that people can embrace that. And it's not me preaching to them, you need to, or you need to be like me. It's, let's take this journey together.
I gather, I mean, by the title as well, how to make culture, retention, and customer loyalty profitable by leading like no one else, that this is generally speaking targeted at corporate leaders.
Yes,
Is it applicable, however, to other areas of leadership?
I believe it is, because again, loyalty from your customers could be internal or external. It could be the people in your club, it could be the people in your household. The profitability aspect is just what is your ROI. Don't necessarily think of profitability as in what do we sell and what do we get back. Think of it in terms of what am I trying to achieve? How do I measure this? How do I get the most of what I value? So again, it's targeted at the corporate world, but it has applications across multiple sectors and all aspects of our lives. And I think that's the angle that makes it a bit different.
If every Caribbean leader at the corporate, at the political level, got a copy and read this properly and began applying it in their day-to-day space, what kind of region would we expect to see?
A more collaborative region. I'd start off with that. I think one of the things that disappoints me about our Caribbean region today is I grew up understanding what a kudme is. It's part of our culture. And every island that I've traveled to has some element of it. And we don't practice it on the biggest stage. We don't collaborate well as a people. We are too easily divided. And I think if more leaders were to pick up this book, they would understand, again, how to collaborate better, how our differences make us exceptions, but that's a strength, and how to embrace that. And I wish certain leaders would pick it up. Donald Trump, for sure. I wish he would pick it up and learn something from it. But if they don't, I hope people that are around them learn from something from the exception code and bring it into the meetings with those leaders of the region. So I think we would all be a stronger region for that. But that's just me.
What do you put that down to, though? This challenge of lack of collaboration, is it that we've so bought into the idea of competition that we all have to be at it on our own, or is it just short-sightedness? I mean, how would you put it down to?
I think leadership and thought leadership has gone overboard on promoting competition. I think competition is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm in a capitalist world. But I believe that when we go on journeys together, we go further. There's this African proverb that says that, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I think we miss that point. We tend to focus on KPIs, profitability, balance sheet growth. All the measures of success tend to be short term. But if we start thinking 10, 15, 20, 30 years ahead, you start seeing the KPIs and the measurements change. And to achieve those measures and metrics, you can't do it without the collaborative element. Somebody asked me after I did the RBC acquisition, why don't we see more of these in the Caribbean? And the reason we don't see more of it in the Caribbean is because we are too short-sighted. We are focused on the here and now and the immediate KPIs in front of us. We don't want to take on big, hairy, audacious goals, probably for fear of failure and the impact that will have on us. Or we just don't want to deal with all the nuances of cross-cultural dynamics. But I say this, to grow, to succeed, to survive in the long term, we need that level of cooperation, collaboration, or integration, if you want to call it that. So yeah, I that's my take on it.
The relationship between, let's just call them stakeholders. I mean, you might want to call them customers, you might want to call them employees, and leadership. And we see sometimes some significant gaps, which I perhaps will just want to generalize to call mistrust. Mistrust between the customer and the person selling to them. The mistrust between the employees and the heads. It might be the mistrust between constituents and the politician. How do we overcome that, though? I mean, especially as we're talking about creating this culture.
Yeah.
Of customer loyalty.
I'm going to simplify it. and boil it down to one word: authenticity. I think if you show up as your authentic self every day, you create that element of trust immediately. Um, Too often, leaders have tend to portray themselves as being heroic, almost infallible. They have the weight of the world on their backs, and they have to make all the decisions. Well, I'm different, and the book encourages people to be different. It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to reach out to people in your network to get advice. It's okay to apologize. And I'm not talking about this crazy apology that I never understood. I'm sorry if I offended anyone. What is that? I mean, I'm talking about genuinely apologizing when you get it wrong. It's okay to stand up, put your hand up, and be accountable for certain decisions that you take. And I think if more of us do that, if more of us show that humility and vulnerability, um, people tend to get disarmed around us more, and they will embrace what we have to offer and want to, again, back to that same word, collaborate to bring about bigger success. So, in terms of building trust, I think it starts with the leaders to break that image of infallibility and I am the hero and I make no mistakes and I know it all. So once we can dispel with that, I think customers become drawn to us. They trust what we have to say. Employees the same way. They become drawn and trust what we have to say as well. And the biggest thing is they now feel more comfortable expressing their opinions and views. So you learn so much from your customers and the interactions, and you learn so much from your employees and the interactions. And I will say this on that point before I hand it back to you. Um, I'm a firm believer that we as a people have the answers to every single problem that we face. Our leaders just need to inspire us to speak up and create avenues for us to share that information with them. So again, it's about not being a hero and about being authentic, humble, and vulnerable.
We quite often get compared to that of Singapore, and the comparisons are made sometimes when if you look at Jamaica where they were in 1965 and Singapore where they were, and look at them now and what we've all what they've become and what we're not. That issue comes up quite a lot. Do you put that down to a matter of leadership? That difference in outcomes with the Caribbean versus Singapore.
Wow.
A Lee Kuan Yew who
I'm glad
people had so much trust in. I guess his people had trust in him, and he kept him there for so long. And
I'm glad you touched on that because I don't want to be too controversial here. You need a certain environment to create that outcome, and I don't think that the Caribbean environment fosters that kind of mindset in its citizenry. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it doesn't push us in that direction. If we look at our political system, our democracy, every 5 years we get to change the leadership of our countries. So again, it's feeding into that short-termism. In the case of Singapore, it was, I have 50, 60 years to turn this into what I believe it can be. And if we have to go through some hardships, I'm not going to be replaced. I'm going to be around to navigate us through the hardships whilst we go to greatness. And I think that's what's missing in the Singapore story. When we tell it, we forget what kind of, in inverted commas, democracy existed in that time to allow a leader to put in place all what he needed to do to get the country to where it is today. And I believe that we should try to emulate a lot of what's happening over there, but it will be extremely difficult. I mean, this last general election was how you say, a second term for the St. Lucia Labour Party. And I think the last
The
time
last
we
was
had
like
was like Kenny Anthony.
2001.
Yeah, back in the day. So we have been changing regimes every time we go to the poll. How do you create that continuity of the vision of the nation? Until we can get to a place where we create a national vision and a national agenda and call it a 30-year plan that all political parties buy into, we'll always keep flip-flopping whenever we change our leaders, and it will make it a lot more challenging for a Singapore-style society to develop. We need to create that national vision and agenda. That's my belief.
Exceptional leaders, how do they actually do that? Because quite often they're in their pigeonholes, they're in their own spaces, running their corporate business, and they're not really necessarily sticking their heads up and into anybody else's business, not into the national fray, certainly. How much of that as a leader must you also try to inform and influence the externalities?
Well, thankfully for leaders of corporate entities, we aren't elected, so we get to make one or two high-risk decisions, make a mistake here or there, and we can survive that in most instances if results follow after. We can lay out 5-year strategic plans and get those approved, and it's not every month you're under pressure to deliver, right? But in terms of our corporate leaders and our citizenry influencing what happens on a national stage, I believe, and I'll advocate for it again, write more, speak more, come on programs, share your thoughts. It may be controversial, but at least it might spark a discussion and a debate. I remember being at First National, and I know we reached out to the Prime Minister at the time, who was Alan Chasney, and we reached out to Philip J. Pierre. And one of the things we wanted to do was use our platform as the first Indigenous bank to create a setting where we would see the first political debate. We never got to pull it off, but I advocate for leaders to press for things like that. Try to influence and change how we discuss the budget if you want to do it. Bring together a forum where business leaders actually dissect the budget and explain it to the citizenry. Talk about policy, and let's keep it non-partisan and apolitical. And I think that's how we as exceptional leaders can make a difference in the world, by shifting the dialogue at a national level.
Wow, that's very, very interesting indeed, and good, very good messaging from Mr. Jonathan Johannes. He is the author of The Exception Code: How to Make Culture Retention and Customer Loyalty Profitable by Leading Like No One Else. And of course, it's available online. You can check it out at theexceptioncodebook.com and on a number of different platforms, Amazon, as you mentioned.
Amazon, for sure. Yeah.
For sure, you can get it there. Just recently published, November last year. Yeah. And already certainly making some waves in some Forbes, you said, as well.
That is correct.
Certainly recognize it as one of the go-to books, especially if you're interested in mergers and acquisitions. And if you're out there, if you are middle-level management, you're on the top already, you want to be heading to the top, you might be a student of management or any field, really, where you require leadership. And it's certainly a book that I think we need to get into your collection. Is there a soft copy, e-copy available as well?
Yes. We have the ebook, we have the paperback, and we have the hardcover. A few people have asked about the Audible, but I haven't gotten into that one as yet. Maybe for the 5th anniversary, we'll put out an Audible, but right now, ebook, paperback, and hardcover.
Fantastic. And you've done it all just in 1 year. So, of course, congratulations to you for this certainly really remarkable achievement. Any parting words, any things that we forgot to mention?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who has contributed to my leadership journey. We've made this book a collaborative effort by reaching out to a number of people on social media to edit a number of the chapters before it went to the publisher. And I want to thank you for the support and for your overwhelming encouragement. So again, I couldn't have done it alone. This is not about me, it's about we, and let's all contribute to producing and consuming more local and Caribbean thought leadership.
Fantastic. And just to very quickly read one of the testimonials here, very raw, honest, and practical. A powerful guide for any leader. And that's coming from Wes Hall, which you mentioned, of course, Dragon investor, owner of Harbor Club here in St. Lucia and other properties around the world. And certainly lots to take in. And looks like a really, really, really interesting read. And we again congratulate you on this marvelous production, The Exception Code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
And that, of course, is the dish of the day. We're going to take in our weather report at this time.
Wow, thank you.
Thanks very much, Rand.
Right,
This has been The Daily Dish.
Make you say, yeah, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in Island style. We have times and things, sets, mixes and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all at Island Style. Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, tile and bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And so, of course, the 1.1 is now time for the weather report and the weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tellenbach. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours, the winds will be blowing from the east near 70 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. The weather generally fair. And there is an advisory here which reads small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas. The forecast for the Los Angeles over the Leeward Islands, cloudy with showers. Elsewhere, fair to partly cloudy skies with possibly isolated thunderstorms. That should be possibly isolated showers. And the weather summary, the Atlantic high pressure system will maintain moderate easterly winds across the region during the next couple of days. The atmosphere over St. Lucia and the Windward Islands is relatively dry and stable, resulting in generally fair weather conditions during the next 24 hours. Also, weak and unstable conditions over the Leeward Islands will produce cloudiness with showers over that area during the forecast period. And this was your weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tellenbach.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style, we got the time that will make you happy. Island Style, oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in Island Style. We have times and things, sets, pieces and ground. Everything you you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to our program, The Lunchroom, here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, we're about 14 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. The number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also reach us on our WhatsApp. That is 284-6001. 284-6001. Of course, we want to just thank Mr. Jonathan Johannes for coming in to discuss with us his new publication, just out as of November last year. And it's called The Exception Code, and looks like a very good read for persons out there who want to improve on their leadership, who want to make a dent in terms of being exceptional at what they are doing. And so certainly we want to encourage you to check that out. Available online and Amazon and on a number of different other mediums as well. Of course, the beauty of the event that was just held up at the Southwest Community College is about these books like his were in fact available for sale. And I know one of the things that has been lamented for quite some time is the absence of a decent bookstore here in St. Lucia. And hopefully we can get to that point soon enough. Maybe there has to be some level of a public-private collaboration in that regard. Maybe we need to start tying the bookstores to the libraries or something to that effect. But certainly it is still very important, the idea of having books available and points of where people can come in and get access to information. Yes, it's vitally great to have digital infrastructure, but it's also still good to maintain that medium as well. There are certain things that you don't necessarily get out of the experience of reading on a Kindle and all of that. So something to certainly think on. Now, a note coming from the government of St. Lucia and then through St. Lucia Daily Post, and that press release says contingency plans activated as government moves to protect health services and medical students. And that, as I said, coming out of the St. Lucia Daily Post. So just read that very quickly. The government of St. Lucia has activated contingency plans to safeguard the country's healthcare system and protect St. Lucian medical students abroad amid growing geopolitical pressure from the United States on Cuba's medical cooperation programs. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Philip J. Pierre, confirmed that government is reviewing existing scholarship arrangements and actively exploring alternative partnerships for medical training and health sector support as uncertainty grows over the future of Cuban medical professionals working in the Caribbean and St. Lucian students studying medicine in Cuba. The Prime Minister first raised the issue publicly as at the Second World Congress on Racial and Ethnic Health Disparities and expanded on it on Monday in comments to the media, explaining that recent U.S. policy positions have placed the long-standing medical exchange arrangement with Cuba under strain. According to Pierre, the United States has made its position clear regarding Cuban medical professionals operating in Caribbean countries. Quote, the American government has problems with Cuban doctors working in these islands. That is the fact, he said, adding that this stance places the wider system of medical cooperation, including doctors, specialists, and students, under threat. Pierre linked the situation to broader U.S. policy on Cuba, including the ongoing embargo and recent declarations identifying Cuba as a security concern. He stressed, however, that St. Lucia is responding pragmatically rather than politically. Quote, "This is the global reality we have to deal with as a small island state. We are being proactive and precautionary. We are friends of the American government and we have excellent relations with them, but we must also protect our health services and our students." He emphasized the critical role Cuban medical professionals have played in St. Lucia's healthcare system over the years, warning that their absence would represent a tremendous loss to national medical services. At the same time, Pierre sought to reassure families that there is no immediate disruption of St. Lucian students currently studying in Cuba. Quote, "There is no imminent withdrawal of our students," he stated. "Those who are in Cuba will continue their studies. Life goes on, but under changed circumstances," end quote. The Prime Minister was clear that St. Lucia does not dispute the right of the United States to determine its own foreign policy. Quote, "That is American government policy. The people of America voted for that policy," Pierre said. Quote, "We may not agree with it, but we cannot fight it. What we can do is make alternative arrangements." As part of its contingency planning, the government is assessing current scholarship programs and identifying new international partners for medical education and healthcare support. Pierre identified countries including Mexico, Nigeria, Ghana, and Brazil among those being considered. He also called for a coordinated regional response, noting that Caribbean states face similar challenges and would benefit from collective action. Quote, "Our people must understand what we are dealing with," Pierre said. "Together as a region, we can manage the situation," he said. While acknowledging that the situation remains fluid, the Prime Minister emphasized that the government's approach is grounded in preparation rather than alarm. Quote, "It is a work in progress. We are looking ahead and preparing for any eventuality," Pierre stated. And of course, that article, as I said, comes from the St. Lucia Daily Post. Contingency plans activated as government moves to protect health services and medical students. And so, of course, many challenges in respect of our healthcare sector here in St. Lucia. And we've, of course, been hearing the challenges with respect to infrastructure, and we've seen the moves in that regard in terms of projects like OKEU, and then, of course, expanding of OKEU to include the fifth finger, and, of course, the commissioning of the St. Jude Hospital, which is ongoing right now. But it cannot be a hospital if there are not going to be members of staff to be able to keep that hospital running. And so therein lies the challenge in respect of our healthcare system. And let's also remember that a lot of St. Lucians are going overseas. They are, in fact, studying, and there's a very high global demand for persons in the health field, whether it might be nurses, whether it might be doctors, whether it might be technicians and other providers, healthcare providers, carers. These are all in very high demand, including in the United States of America. And so many have made the point. It's one thing to say that, well, maybe the United States now should begin looking at providing scholarships to students to study medicine in the United States. And for many of the students who actually do go across to study medicine in the United States, very, very, very few of them ever actually return to St. Lucia. And that could be for a lot of different reasons. Of course, we know the cost of education in the United States is very high. The cost of medical programs in the United States is also very high. You're speaking effectively about 8 years of study, because you do a first degree and then a medical degree. And so in many instances, individuals are, piling up a tremendous amount of debt. And so then they end up being forced to effectively make US dollars to be able to pay off that debt. And so they tend to remain in the United States. Of course, the salary positions, doctors in the United States are very, very well paid, especially in comparison to the rest of the world. And the reality of the US is that the health system is very highly priced. Everything is priced. And whereas perhaps a lot of places around the world, they might be spending about maybe 6 or 7% of their GDP on healthcare. In the United States, that figure is the highest in the world. I think it's approaching 12%, 11, 12%. So it is a very different space, very much dominated by the insurance companies as well, which certainly do make a mint of that this reality, and so the likelihood of course, a lot of these healthcare professionals returning is very, very slim, and even so, we still have that tremendous shift of healthcare professionals from the Caribbean to the United States of America and elsewhere. So it is not an easy space right now for the Caribbean, being placed on that type of, I suppose you could say, this type of watch by the U.S. authorities, and the pressure being placed on Cuban medical programs, which have certainly been a significant lifeline for health, the health sector in many of these islands. As to the way forward, of course, we did have, in terms of contingency plans, we did have last year, coming out of the visit of the Nigerian president, the offer of medical professionals to come from Nigeria to work in St. Lucia. And we have seen some countries in the Caribbean taking up that offer. I think certainly Jamaica, I think Grenada as well has already done so. I think also St. Kitts. So it is certainly one of the areas where we will have to be looking at the potential and possibility of African medical doctors as well. They have been in the past, and certainly that is another area where we'll have to be looking at as well. Irony, of course, is that in fact the first St. Lucian scholarship holder, Edmund Leo Auguste, he after he finished his training over in the United Kingdom, worked here in St. Lucia for 3 years, he headed off to Ghana to in fact spend his time here. And so now we're looking at getting medical doctors from Ghana, from Nigeria and elsewhere. Let's take in a call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Yes, good afternoon. I guess the opportunity closing in Cuba.
Sorry, caller, you for some reason you're very faint.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, oh, much better. Yes.
So saying with opportunities closing in Cuba for our students to go and study medicine, perhaps the government of the region should speak to you, your very own university, to see if they can fill the gap.
Yes, certainly it is one area that we will have to place a lot of greater emphasis on. Thanks for that, caller. There was a time when UE Mona was the only campus that had a faculty of medicine. That has changed, and in fact, I think all 3 campuses have medical programs now, right? So Mount Hope and part of St. Augustine and Trinidad, they of course have a program. In fact, I would suspect that we have just as many St. Lucians heading to Mount Hope now compared to even Mona. And as well at Caville, they also are running a medical program, a medicine program over there. So certainly there are opportunities to work with the University of the West Indies in that regard, and in terms of partnerships in that way. The matter of internships as well is also another area where there has to be cooperation. There was, in fact, if you recall, an effort we did want to become work with OKEU in terms of that program. So there's lots of opportunities certainly to work with the University of the West Indies in that regard. In fact, I remember there were a number of students coming from Botswana to study in Trinidad at Mount Hope. And so if the government of Botswana can see the value of that kind of partnership with UE, then I think the same can be done with respect to that of our own University of the West Indies. Of course, the matter of resources is usually what it is, right? And so I think the St. Lucia government will certainly have to look at its deepening of its commitment to UE. I know St. Vincent, for example, they are consistently able to provide economic costs for all their students. In the case of St. Lucia, I think it was very limited in that they were only providing for some students, a limited number of students. So that's one of the areas that can certainly make study at the University of the West Indies more attractive to St. Lucian students, and also the potential for scholarships as well. That's another area that we have to certainly consider. It is vital. There's some key skills that we have to get, and we've been very, very fortunate to have had Cuba to assist in this regard. But yeah, as a country, there are some things that you've got to have to bite the bullet on, and certainly, pay for ourselves in terms of doing what is necessary to ensure that we can take care of ourselves through our healthcare system. So there are definitely some possibilities there which we do need to take on board. That's our program for today. And of course, we do hope that we'll be back again tomorrow for another one. I think we're starting Republic Corner again. So hope you can join us for that tomorrow as well. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.